Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Our guest is Jennifer Iliana. And Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. And,
You.
and Rami is here. And glad to have you here too, Rami. Jessica had to work today, so she won't be joining us. And I'm going to read Jennifer's biographies here so you can know more about her, and then we'll have a great conversation. So, Jennifer Iliana is a spiritual coach, a registered nurse with 17 years of experience, and an intuitive healer that is certified in alchemy, crystal healing, elemental healing, soul shifting, soul coaching, oracle readings, manifestation guide, oracle and spiritual channeling, living astrology practitioner, sound healing, angel numerology, and a Reiki Level II practitioner. And Jennifer guides individuals to navigate through spiritual awakenings, finding meaning in their life and tapping into their intuitive gifts. Through her intuitive gifts of clairaudience, clairsentience, and clairvoyance, she is able to deliver messages from spirit to help others gain clarity and move past limiting beliefs. And she talks more about her coaching container, and that if you work with her, you'll experience the magic that happens when you and she work together with energy, the elements, astrology, and crystals to remove physical, mental, or spiritual barriers to help achieve your desires. And her website and social media posts are below, and I hope you check those out. And so, Jennifer, again, thank you so much for being with us. And I just love I don't know, the integration of all the various things you do. And so please tell us whatever part of your story you'd like to tell of how you got to do the work you do. And I am assuming that you were an RN first and then worked into other things. So if you could tell us how that transition happened or whatever.
Well, thank you so much, Carla and Rami, for having me on today. So, a little bit about my story. I have to say, if someone would have told me years ago that I'll be doing this today, I would have told them that they were lying because I never thought that I would venture into my spiritual side. I grew up in a very Catholic household, and anything spiritual was not approved per se. So I was very scared to do anything outside of the church. I grew up first generation born in the United States. So my parents are from Puerto Rico and they came here. I was born here. So I was basically from birth, I say I was bridging worlds. So I was their translator. I helped them navigate their world here in the US. And, with all of that, you can imagine there was a lot of childhood trauma that accumulated from me not being able to be a child. And my father passed away when I was 17. And I would say that was like my first spiritual encounter. Was during his death. I was starting to see things and hear things, and it kind of freaked me out. So I kind of was like, I can't. So I shut everything off. And then in my early 20s, I went to nursing school because being his caretaker, I was like, well, it only makes sense that I be a nurse. So I went through nursing school and I became very science based. Right. So if I couldn't feel it, touch it, see it with my hands, my eyes, all my physical senses, it couldn't be real. And during that evolution, I started to see how sick our healthcare system was in multiple levels, not just, sick patients, but overall how broken the system was and how separated we were from nature and just following the normal circadian rhythms and just how sick people were and how many people towards the end of life were really holding on to something spiritual, whether it was they were seeing things, they were wanting to have priests or rabbis come to the bedside. It was such a huge spirituality towards the end of life that I had no choice to kind of revisit that. But it wasn't until I had my own health crisis back in 2016 when I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease and basically had every healthcare provider that I trusted would have went to for help turn me away and say it was all in my head, it was all stress. And I had no choice but to kind of figure out how to heal myself, which brought me back to the basics. And I did find a functional medicine doctor that worked with me. And the first thing that they said to me was, until you heal your trauma, there's nothing I can really do for you. I could prescribe you all the medications in the world, give you all the herbs, treatments, all that. But until you heal your trauma, you won't be able to really heal. And I didn't know what that meant at the time because I didn't realize that what I went through was capital T traumas. I thought it was just life. So having someone tell me that for the first time was a lot for me to process, on top of me trying to heal from something that my traditional healthcare system couldn't heal me from. And the disillusionment and all that came with it really left me no other choice but to turn towards the one thing that I have feared my whole life, which was my spirituality, my gifts. Once I started therapy and found the right therapist that guided me through that process, I was able to then open myself up to exploring other things in my life that I may have shied away from. 2020, the world shut down, the pandemic happened, and I had a lot of time by myself to think. And that's when I started to explore, well, what would opening up to spirituality and my gifts look like? And I started to find teachers that I worked with online, started working with different communities, went through a nurse coaching program so I could feel confident as a coach, and then decided to come out of the spiritual closet back in 2021 and have not looked back ever since.
Awesome. Well, I really relate to several things that you've said, especially being raised in so much in Christian faith, and then thinking everything that I have found now, 20 years ago or whatever, 10 years ago, I would have thought it was evil, right?
Yes.
And it's awesome. And the same way of coming into your clairvoyance and things, it just kind of starts happening after trauma, right? That you go through, and it's like,
Yes.
whoa, yeah. So, and you have to learn more about it. So, very awesome. So, what part of your work would you like to tell us about first? Or,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So with me, I say really diving into the astrology. So I have a moon in Aquarius. So Aquarius is the sign that's mostly associated with astrology. I never knew that until I started studying it. Has really opened me up to being able to meet people where they're at. Right. So I do more of natal astrology. So I look at your chart from the time you were born. I look at where your planets were at that time, and it gives me an idea of how to best serve that client and also how to best communicate with them, how to make them feel safe, seen, supported. It gives me a little insight of what past traumas they could have been through in this, previous lifetimes, and looking at like their south node, what they're coming in with, looking at their north node, where they're heading. I work a lot with Chiron and seeing how I can help them through that evolution. I try to get to them before 50, which when you have your Chiron return, so they have the skill sets already in place to go through a Chiron return. And I think that that has helped heal myself, because growing up, one thing is I didn't understand myself because mostly was no one looked like me. So being born here, like I grew up in a Puerto Rican household, but I went to school in the American system, and a lot of I didn't look like people didn't really look like me. And at home, I spoke Spanish. I went to school, I spoke English. So and my parents didn't really know how to explain things to me. So I went through life with one big question mark. And I think finding the astrology piece has helped me understand myself in ways that I don't think I could have ever done without having like someone to turn to, be like, hey, can we talk about certain things? And that has really blown my practice and my ability to serve others more powerfully.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Um, I'm just digesting the richness
Mhm.
of, of that. Um, I had recently found astrology within the last couple years also, and have not that I know a great deal about it, but I've been more in the experiencing level of learning to communicate with nature and trying to learn some of the basics so that I can see and feel the integration of those powers in my life, those energies in my life, and how I can better work with them instead of against them as they interact. Those energies all interact together to provide a multitude or plethora of situations and experiences and energies for us to grow from. So
Absolutely, I agree with you 100% because that's part of too is the elements, right? As you know, the elements live in astrology, and part of my elemental healing work is looking at, for a person who may come to me because I do a lot of manifestation work, and it says I have a hard time manifesting. If I see that they have like a lot of air in their chart, I may be like, okay, well, we need to work with Earth. We need to ground your visions here on Earth. How do we work with the Earth element? So I love that you already are doing that with, the astrology and aligning yourself to the seasons and not going against it, which, if you look at this whole season here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in winter. And what is it? Well, excuse me, we're not winter yet. We're still in fall, but we're heading towards winter.
mhm.
But it's the busiest time of the year. But nature is slowing down. Nature is hibernating. Nature is retreating. And here we are having to go to a million different parties and gifts and wrapping. It's just like we are going against nature. So I think just bringing that awareness, how do we align, maybe we need to rethink our holidays a little bit.
I heard more about that just yesterday. I haven't, I'd heard there was a podcast. I haven't listened to it yet, where a lady was talking about exactly that you'd said. She had come to be shown spiritually exactly what you were talking about, and how she was helped to develop a set of oracle cards that walked people through the 14 days, I think, or 21 days, something like that, beginning right before Christmas and extending after that, walks you through the darkest part of the night, or the winter, right? And of the solstice and the following days until it's growing again, the daylight is growing again, and helps you fill that time with meditation and other things, instead, of quiet and meditation, instead of all the busyness. And yeah, I'm interested in exploring that. So did you feel that like on your own through your astrology and the elements work, that kind of just came to you?
It did. And before the astrology and the work I've done, I know for myself, this whole time, like from November to like the end of the year for us, because it's like Thanksgiving and we do Christmas and Christmas Eve and New Year's and all that, always felt very draining. Like I felt in conflict. There was a parts of me that felt that there was something wrong with me because I wanted to retreat. I wanted to hibernate. I wanted to go within. I didn't want to go to like all these different events. And after I had my spiritual awakening, I kind of sat with it and was like, is there something wrong with me, or is there something wrong with the way we are being programmed to live culturally, right? So I kind of had to sit with it. And it came to me very clearly that no, like we're meant to be in tune with nature. Like nature's our teacher. Nature's teaching us what to do, and we go against it. And then parts of me is like, and again, like I don't have proof of this, but it's like I feel like it's very intentional to keep us out of sync, to keep us on that hamster wheel per se, going on autopilot, like following the calendar per se. And my intention is to just cause enough disruption in people for them to pause long enough to hear themselves think. Because I think that if we all pause for a second, we would feel the disconnect as well.
Right. Yeah. In so many ways, the system keeps us on those hamster wheels. For many years, well, and I still do to a degree, except in practical purposes, it doesn't work as well on scheduling things and such. Um, but for many years, I kept the lunar solar calendar, so that I went by the full moon, and when the first time it's been full overnight, and then the moon and the sun are both in the sky together at the same time, following that fullness of the moon overnight, that's what was called New Moon Day.
Mm.
And of course, it was full moon day, but that was the new month, the first day of the new month. And then the next, anyway, and so that was the moon cycles, and it was lovely. And I still observe the cycles. It just makes it hard, like you said. The system is kept to totally keep us out of that, where we're in sync with our spirit and in sync with our of nature.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of our work is to help those who are ready, because not everyone's ready. And that's part of my goal is to honor people exactly where they are at their journey and not let my enthusiasm for, wanting things to be different for them to overshadow their own desires. But for those who are ready, that's the first thing I do is I help them get back into their body, because so many of us are disconnected from our body, and our bodies are like screaming, like, see me, like, I have important information for you. And it's like, no, 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 I can't do that. And eventually, as as a healthcare worker, I saw what happened to those who ignore their body for so long.
Yeah. Well, for sure. Yeah. And most of us experience those things in our own bodies too, for all our
I,
many years of
yeah.
not paying attention. That's for sure. So you also talk about alchemy, right?
Yes.
So, oh wait, I just thought instead I'll go back to alchemy in a little bit, but the elements. Some people teach the four elements and some teach the five elements. And which do you use, I guess, and why do you choose that over the other one? Just to
Yeah,
educate us a
absolutely.
little bit.
So for me, I believe in the five. Right? I see earth, fire, air, water, and spirit. And I feel that without spirit, right, we don't experience the elements. They're just there on their own. So
Yeah.
that's my school of thought and belief. I do respect others who only do the four. But for me, I think because of my journey back to spirit was so hard and treacherous, I feel like I have to always remember spirit, because I don't ever want to revert to that part of my life where I didn't. So for me, it's a very personal belief in the spirit, but I feel that that's just how we, embody the elements. Because I believe, I'm a soul having a human experience. So my soul chose to be here, and it wanted to be on a earth where it could experience different elements and different emotions and different feelings. And that's why spirit is so important to me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've liked that too. Um, I just didn't know exactly why. People see the difference. So then, how do you use alchemy? Do you use that? Are you talking like soul alchemy, or you're actually doing physical alchemy work?
So I'm doing this. So it's spiritual. So I do work. I do work with the 7 different phases of alchemy. So for those who may not be familiar with it, I'll do a brief little overview. So
Please.
we start off with calcination, which basically is if we were to boil you down to bare bones, what is there, right? It's really getting super clear because there's so much identity, like with people. Like, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, no, no, no. Who are you? Take away the roles. Who are you? Right. So that's part of the calcinations, getting super clear. If I took every single role away from you, who are you? And then at that point, once we do like the physical boiling down, right, we had to know to separate so we can get crystal clear on what do we have, what are we working with. And then we go through this phase of dissolution, right? So a lot of it, for some people, they look at it as kind of like I hate to say soul death because it's not a soul death, but it's kind of like the death of the things you thought you were, right? So it's going through that physical like death of that stuff. And then we get into conjunction, right? So it's kind of putting back together the pieces we want to keep as we go through this process. And then we go through like a period of fermentation. So we kind of let it settle, right? Because there's a lot that goes through it, emotional, physical. I mean, people, depending on how deep they're doing this work, will have physical symptoms. They could have ascension symptoms. So they go through a lot. So we have to kind of let things sit. And then we go through a process of like distillation. So it's kind of like, okay, it's kind of like a rebirth. All right, this is who I am evolving. This is who I want to be. And then we go through a period of coagulation where we kind of let it come together again. So it's like taking everything apart and bringing it back together through different phases and providing support through each of the phases and recognizing that they're not linear, right? We can get to fermentation and be like, no, I want to go back a little bit to conjunction, right? So it's me assessing and guiding the person through the process and also using my intuition to know whether there's true resistance or if there is something that we need to sit with, right? So that's where my gifts come in, and I can read the situation and assess and know what the next intervention per se. If I was going to go back to a nursing process, what does the next intervention require? And but that comes with trust, right? My client has to trust me that I am guiding them in the right way, and it requires a level of them letting go of control. So I take that very seriously in my practice.
Yeah, beautiful. So your work with elements then ties into the alchemy as well?
Yes.
Mhm.
So I work with nature itself, and I do work with astrology. So depending on where we are in the process, like right now we are in Sagittarius season. Sagittarius is a fire sign, so I will work a lot with fire, and because we're still in fall, fall is considered a water season, so I will work a lot with water and fire during this time. And then, as we head into the full moon, which is going to be in Gemini, which is an air sign, I mean, then would work with air and water. So I work with the season element that we're in and with
Nice.
the astrological. It also depends on the person too. So if, like I said, if I'm working with someone who is having a very hard time with embodiment or, trying to bring things into the physical form, and again, they lack earth, I will add earth regardless of what season or zodiac sign we're in.
Hmm. Yeah, I love how you integrate all of those. So on astrology, do you use sidereal or tropical styles, or depending on your client, or how do you look at those?
So, with me, my teacher, the only one I've really been working with, we've been doing the tropical. And then it's been mostly, I'm having a senior moment now, porphyry. And we do the house systems.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that's really my focus. I know there's so many different like astrologies and different ways of looking at the charts, but that's the only one I'm familiar with.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know tropical much more than I do sidereal. I probably know
Yeah.
enough, but I think on the big things they're very similar. It's just kind of finding your house sign, or finding
Yes. I
your
know
sun
with us, like
sign. Mhm.
we do we'll do like we would do like intersected houses where I know there's some house systems that don't do intersected houses. They're just like no, like the entire house is divided evenly.
Mm,
And
mhm.
if
Right.
we do the natural wheel, first house is Aries' house. But my teacher has taught us to work with intersected houses, which basically just means like there could be a sign in the middle of the house,
Right.
and we call it like it's in the closet, and we have to kind of get to it, and the energy could be kind of hidden. And I know that there's some house systems that don't work with them at all.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, very cool. So, but on your astrology, on your website, it's referred to as living astrology.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
So at the time, I had only really been taking classes that focus on what's happening right here, right now, like at the sky. Let's look at the sky right now and what's happening. And that was last year. This year, I'm coming towards the end of a full entire year of studying, um, you know, basic astrology, which next year we're going to go more into evolutionary astrology, which is like the soul's evolution, what we came here to do. Um, but because at the time we were just focusing on what was going on and me learning how to look at the sky at the moment and telling you how the moving parts could be affecting you, that's what I have on my website. But once I complete this, this evolutionary astrology school of learning, then I'm going to update that information. But so yeah, so basically at the time I would look at what's going on and look at what's happening in your chart, where it's hitting your chart, and kind of talk about how that energy could be manifesting itself in your life right now and helping people navigate that. Because sometimes people will come to me and be like, I feel like everything's falling apart. And I'm like, okay, let's take a deep breath. Let's look at what's going on. And then I would be able to provide them with a tool. Because I say astrology doesn't make anything happen. It tends to just mirror what's happening. And it gives me a different language to be able to explain to someone what's going on and kind of help them, give them like a little timeline to navigate through that period and say, how about we check in about, 6, 8 weeks from now and see how you're feeling after this has passed and what kind of clarity is brought to you.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Um, and you also use numerology, right?
Yes. So I
And
did the certification with Radley Valentine on angel numerology last year. It's actually December 7th. It was a year that I got certified. Um, so I do angel numerology, which I'm more familiar with. But I do reference numerology for those who may not be comfortable with working with angels. I honor and respect that as well. But for that, I'll be honest, I probably have to go back to a book and reference it and be like,
right,
okay, let me pull up my book and make sure that I'm providing you with the correct information.
right. I hope you don't mind, and if you don't want to answer this in any way, then just say so. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. We're going. But I have a granddaughter that is. She was born on 12/12/12, so she'll be 12, right? Next
Oh.
this week, next week, whatever day. Yeah, in two
Yeah, in
days,
two
right?
days.
In
2 days.
2 days.
Yep.
And so um, something was really pulling. I did a very special gift for her this year because something was just really pulling me in, saying, especially probably since it's 24, since you have a double 12 in the year,
Yeah.
right? And I again dabble with numerology and things. So from your angel card, um, not to go like deep in a soul reading or anything like that, but is there anything you can say to the power of having that many 12s?
So, I mean, when numbers show up like that, like 12, 12, 12, that is something to like 12 is going to have a big impact in her life. So I quickly did her birthday, which is 12, 12, 24, and it equaled 24. So if we were to reduce that, it's a 6, right? So
Right.
she's going to be in a 6th year. And in sixes, if we will go the angel numerology route, the way that Raleigh taught us, sixes tend to come with challenges. So it could be like a challenging year.
Mm-hmm.
But I say, these challenges are not meant to make us be fearful of them. It's an opportunity for us to kind of flex our muscle and see what we've learned and what there is more to learn. Now, for a 12-year-old, right, you're like, well, what can a 12-year-old be facing? She's
Oh,
12, like, you know what I mean? But
junior high
to
is hard. Junior
Well, I was
high
going
is
to
hard
say,
for everybody.
she's about to go into a big phase, like a milestone in her life, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like she's in the liminal space between a child and a teenager because she's going to be 12. So you're in that liminal space where you're not really a child, but you're not really been inducted per se into teenagehood, which could be a very difficult time, right? So I would say, this is a great opportunity to really focus on developing the self-esteem, developing that core sense of self, really, really strengthening that root chakra to help her be able to move through this phase of life with the skill set to face the challenges that are coming. But a 6 does indicate challenges. But if we bring it back to traditional numerology, in the tarot, it is the Lover's card. So it shows the duality, right? Because it's associated with Gemini. So I think this year is going to give her a taste of all the things that life has to offer. And as adults guiding her, I would say help her with understanding what is for her, what's not for her now, and what's definitely not for her, right? Because Gemini says multiplicity, right? It's like a buffet of it's a sample of everything, but we don't want her to sample everything right now. So it's really teaching her and developing that trust with her to come to, the adults in her life to help her navigate, like I say, this liminal space that she's in right now. So both of it, whether it's angel numerology or whether it's traditional numerology, it really is about being mindfulness about the experiences that she's about to encounter and the challenges that come with them, and not to be scared of them, but view them as opportunities to strengthen the bond and the connection with her, so that she knows that she can come to you and not other people who may not have their best interest. Especially in the day of technology where kids can have access to anything at their fingertips, it is scary because, you don't know who they're going to encounter and you don't know what they're going to be taught. So I feel like the more you can build that foundation, that trust, the more, I don't want to say the word control because we don't have control, but the more we can influence the potential outcomes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for taking time to talk about that.
Of course,
I
yes.
appreciate it.
I have a thing with children. I say like my future for my business is to use astrology to help parents understand their children, and children when the roles reverse, when children start to take care of their parents. I say children, but they're going to be adults, and how to help those relationships, and for people that want to repair relationships, how to do that through understanding each other through their charts and providing them with practical tools that they can use. That is my long-term vision for my business, is to be able to repair those relationships.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. I try to encourage families to do, like I have an online course and Raimi helps with it. But although it's usually, one person taking it, in a household or whatever, it's like, please, everyone in your home, take it,
Yeah,
do it, please do it all. And, for the same price, the family gets to do it, with no price, but it's like, you have to make the whole family shift, right?
absolutely. But I have to say in that, I don't ever diminish the power of one person doing the work and one person shifting their energy. Because, with energies, if we shift something, things are going to naturally shift. So by one person doing the work, they will shift the energy, and people are either going to get on board with it, or they're going to have to figure out a way to live with the discomfort of not doing the shift. But energy definitely causes ripple effects.
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I do ancestral clearing. And it's real interesting how you can see it heal the energy work, heal the ancestors at the same time, and go
Absolutely.
forward into the future, right?
Yes.
It's beautiful. Yeah. How
Well, I love that because I am definitely the ancestral healer for my family. I'm the generational healer, and I could feel it. I could definitely feel it. And I have to say, as a channel, sometimes that's very, very difficult. I recently, within this month, I channeled immense grief from my ancestors that left me like emotionally debilitated for about 12 hours.
Wow.
I had I mean, I'm talking about grief. I mean, I was grieving things I didn't even know I had to grieve about. It was like very intense. But you know, I went through it and I could feel like the release, and I could feel the lightening of the load as you know, through my ancestors. And you know, the people have taught me about it. They do shamanic work. So they said, you know, it's 7 generations before, 7 generations after. And I could definitely just feel it, the energy just felt so much lighter. And I was kind of like, guys, just give me a heads up next time, because I was definitely not prepared for this. Give me a warning. I don't know, a dream, send me an angel. I don't know, do something. But, you know, because I do believe in spiritual boundaries. And I definitely realized that when it comes to my ancestral healing, I have to work more, being more bounded, because they kind of just show up. And I'm like, I wasn't ready for that.
Right. Yeah, they do show up. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Yeah. Raimi, do you have any thoughts on what Jennifer's been talking about? Oh, unmute yourself.
Yeah. No, I love it. Absolutely love it. We have something in common. I'm a first generation immigrant with my parents, and I was born in Germany, but I can relate to being the spokesperson for the family, coming home and telling them, Mom, it's okay to do this. We're in America. And, she would shake her head, and I knew customs were different and their thoughts were different, but she trusted me. But I would always be that spokesperson. And luckily she would talk to my father, because my father always said no. He didn't even want to hear what was going on. He just said, no. I guess he thought that was safe. I really do believe that. And then I would, speak with my mom and tell her about things, and she, okay. And so, yeah, I can relate with all that. And being spiritual, I came upon it in my late adult years, because like you, I didn't really know what was going on with me or the family dynamics. And it was difficult. Yeah. Trauma. Right. But yeah, I enjoy what you do. I enjoy the astrology. I'm just now too listening, but I have no clue. Like, I didn't know what you girls were talking about when you mentioned tropical. I have no clue what that is. And then the elements that you went into, Jennifer, that was pretty interesting. Really, you find out what element they're in. That's really, yeah, good work. Yeah, I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. So you also mentioned on your website that you do living magic, and to me, magic is knowing, feeling, and integrating all the energies of the universe into our lives, right? And so, how do you work with magic? And yeah.
So I have to say, for me, I took it more the approach, because my clients, I tend to get clients who are at the beginning of their awakening, in the beginning of their spiritual journey. So for them, sometimes magic is very foreign, or they only know what they've seen on TV, right? You have to cast a circle, and you have to sit here, and you have to wear this attire, and you have to have all these crystals and all these candles. I'm like, well, yeah, you can have all that. But for the busy mom who's running 100 miles a day, her living magic may look very differently. And it could be cooking with intention, blessing the herbs that you use, or the seasonings, the way that you cleanse the meat before you cook it. All of that could be turned to a ritual. Just being mindful of your thoughts, because we say, like, words are spells, right? What
Yes.
spells are you casting daily? And not just with words, because people think, oh, well, if I didn't say it. No, 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 your thoughts too. Your thoughts are casting spells daily. So
Absolutely.
for me, it's like bringing magic to what we consider not to be magical things. Like even driving. Like, you know, like with me, like I always do like a little protection spell on myself before I drive. And I call in certain spirits to guide me in my journey. Um, so like little things like that that people don't think about is the stuff that I teach them and how to bring magic into that. Even to their workspaces. You know, I tell them like, you know, for my empaths, how to bubble up before they walk into the workplace. You know, what kind of teas, right? You're having a rough day at work, or you're about to go into a very stressful meeting. Okay, maybe you want to, you know, have a tea that's going to regulate your nervous system a little bit right before this meeting. Water, you know, I talk about working with water and Dr. Emoto's experiments with how you speak into the water and how it goes into your body. I teach them to pray over their water. And if prayer is not your thing, an affirmation. So just working with water daily into their bodies and even at work, right? How do you, you know, you're having someone said something really negative with you, about you, taking a cup of water and cleansing it down, you know, dumping it down the sink, let those words go down the sink. Stuff like that, because I work with a lot of people that work long days, long hours, have a lot of responsibilities, and they just feel that they can't carve out time. I teach them how to bring magic into everything that they do so that it just becomes a state of being, not so much doing. And it becomes like second nature. Like, you know, like you get up in the morning before your feet even touch the ground, you're already expressing gratitude for another day. You know, like things like that is what I consider living magic. Um, and I love to be able to bring that in tangible and practical ways for people at the beginning of their journey who may be completely overwhelmed with having a formal ritual.
Yeah, I love that. Several months ago now, asked myself a series of questions in the morning before I fully, before I get out of bed, but before I fully wake up, to try to prep my mind to be on the thoughts that I wanted to have. And one of those questions is like, well, how am I going to integrate magic and intuition into my life today? And so much, like you said, is uh, consciousness of it, right?
Yeah.
Of keeping your mind on that. And I have to say, I forget, right? I get going.
Yeah.
I have my routine in the morning that develops a lot of magic and a lot of stuff, but then the rest of the day, um, you know, I go on and forget.
Well, it's hard. And again, I have to say it's because of the programming, the way they were programmed, the way that we are distracted, the way that life, and this, you know, a lot of it is external factors. Like, you know, with me, like I have two children. I have my children will be 3 in January. They're twins. I get curveballs thrown at me all day. So it's to me, it's like I look at that as practice. It's a moment of practice. What am I going to do? How am I going to come back to center? How am I going to stay intentional
Right.
in what I do? And I say these curveballs that life throws at us is really opportunities for us to flex our muscles, to come back to self. And I think that if we worked with them in that way intentionally, we will feel less stressed. Not saying you won't be stressed, because like I said, your car breaking down on the side of the road is stressful.
Yeah.
There's nothing I could say that's going to take this. But sitting there, leaning into yourself, trusting that you're safe and you're protected, that the help will come, and using that time to maybe do a quick little meditation could probably be the biggest gift of the day to you. If you
Yeah.
let it be, right?
Yes.
How
Beautiful.
open are you to receiving that? Which is, you know, a whole nother line of work, right? Our receptivity. A lot of us are not taught how to receive. We're only taught how to give. right? Because we were in this very heavily masculine energy world. And for me, a lot of my work is bringing us back more into that feminine energy. And I'm not saying feminine like gender, because we all, as you know, you ladies know, we both have both energies within us. But as a society, we have been programmed to really work with the masculine, and the feminine has kind of been forgotten. And I think now, especially as we are, shifting from, we were in age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, that's really the feminine is going to really come forward with that. And I think that the climate is preparing for that as well.
It seems like there's a lot of shifts around. I'm Aquarius. It's just interesting, I guess, as I learn more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not like of course, everyone knows we need our minds, right? It's not like moving into the feminine is totally just feminine, just going, on how you feel about everything or whatever. It's like it's so important to stay present, to stay mindful, like you said, so that we can hear our spirit. Otherwise, the communication between the hemispheres of your brain get so scrambled or dissonant because of the busyness and things that it's so hard to hear your spirit and listen to that inner feminine energy.
Absolutely.
And then just use the mind, have that steer your mind, right?
Absolutely. Like I say, I think that going back to being intentional, right? If we lean into the feminine and take inspired action, which is more of the masculine, then we will be in alignment, right? And being more in alignment, I can almost guarantee you it would help with the disease processes, because even the word disease is a state of unease, right?
Yes.
And I think that by us leaning more into what people say ancient practices, it's really the key to healing us as a species.
Yeah, I think so. As a nurse, then, too, do you notice EMF damage to your body? And so I had an experiment. I mean, I'm very sensitive to EMFs, and so like our internet is hardwired in our home and things. But it's like we went to a care home to visit my mother-in-law last week, and it's like I didn't notice it everywhere, but we turned the corner and walked down a hallway to the dining room or something. It was like, oh man, that whole hallway was just so incredibly intense. And I was walking next to the wall. It seemed to get better if I walked in the center, because they must have something mounted to the wall or running through the walls. And it was like, oh my God, it was just awesome. I mean, awful, not awesome, awesomely awful. And so the next time I was prepared then walking through it. And so before I walked down the hallway, then I breathed in and mentally pictured, the more positive energy filling my biofield as a protector against the EMFs. And it helped. I mean, I didn't feel it quite as overwhelmingly. But how do you work with any EMF type?
Yeah, I would say for me, I help the clinicians be able to, because think about it, you can't go into a hospital and not have a device. Patients are hooked up to devices, whether they are monitors in critical care, whether they're using vital sign machines that are now programmed to send information into the electronic medical record. Nurses are constantly having a workstation, like a WOW machine on wheels, or they're having these devices like cell phones that they use to give medications. I mean, device overload. So I always tell the nurses that I work with that are open to it, because remember, I have to be very discerning in how much woo I go, because I try to keep everything scientific, right? So there's no argument that energy exists, right? It's just energy, and people know that energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred. So my first line of defense for people who need something tangible is crystals. Work with your crystals, shungite, your tourmalines. Those are super protected. And those, I say, put on the physical device. Like put it on your computer. And then with shungite, it's a purifier. So it helps purify. I say it is safe to put shungite in water. You can drink water that is with a crystal. Just don't drink the crystal, swallow it. It's important for these healthcare workers to take salt baths. If salt baths are not your thing, get a salt scrub. Take a shower and use a salt scrub. And then for those who are open to working with their minds, to envision like white light coming out of their shower and all of this gunk, turning into a specific color and going down the drain, I welcome them to work with that. And I work with angels. So I always ask angels to come and protect me and block anything that is not of my highest good. And that's are certain ways that I help others equip themselves to be able to deal with the EMF. I'm very sensitive to EMF. Like I could feel it. And we've done, like, people that don't believe me, I'll be like, I'll close my eyes and I'll have them be like, put a phone near me and I can say, your phone's up. I can feel it. They're like, no, they're like, how do you know that? I'm like, I can feel it. It's really tangible to me. Like, I feel like I could touch it. But, and I feel like there is such a desperation in healthcare right now that people who were very like anti-woo stuff are like, listen, you got an essential oil, I'll try it. At this point, give it to me. I don't care. Like, I need something. And I feel like healthcare workers are opening their minds more to these new, but as we know, they're ancient ways of doing things. And that's my opportunity to slip in.
Well, definitely. So you notice then the healthcare workers being more bombarded with physical dis-ease, right? Or through EMFs, you contributed a lot to, and additives to the food and such too. Yeah.
Yes. And their tolerance for stress is definitely, I feel, it's a lot harder for them to manage the workload, the mental load, the physical load of their work. And that's why, they say we have a shortage. And I say, no, there's enough healthcare workers. There's just not enough workers who are willing to put themselves at harm's way by working with direct patient care at like hospitals or bedsides, because they're just not supportive. They're not supported. And a lot of them they've hit rock bottom. Yes. And they've had to climb their way out. And now they're doing less direct patient care. They're going into indirect patient care roles because they need to protect themselves.
You've totally described Jessica, our other co-host that isn't here. She's an RN and she's been doing hospital work for a long time and has been trying to find something else that paid as well. Until she can build up her coaching business and things. And she described so much, some of the things she spoke about was just target exactly what you spoke about. And I'll tell her to be sure and listen to here today.
Yeah, and she can reach out. I'd love to, work with her in any way. Because I feel like, for me, I still work in healthcare. I work in a non-traditional role. It's informatics. So I do work with technology. And I have to say, I bring a lot of this to my workplace. Like, I do wellness events once a month with my colleagues. And I incorporate some tools. I incorporate guided meditations. I give them practical tools that they can use to manage their daily stress. And I do bring this when I do go to the floors and meet with the nurses. I do help them in whatever capacity they're willing to receive help. And because I feel like, a part of me, and I don't know if it's, the little warrior inside of me, I feel like I have to kind of stay in the setting to fight the battle instead of leaving the setting completely, because we still need soldiers on foot per se, at the source. So I still fight the battle in the system while I, continue to grow my practice and my business, and know that, eventually my goal is to leave. But while I'm there, I'm gonna leave a good impact and imprint. I'm gonna plant the seeds that are gonna grow. And hopefully in my lifetime, if not from spirit form, I will see the outcomes.
Right, right. Awesome. Wonderful. And it's about our time to get close to ending here, but I'm going to put my little banner in there to
Yeah.
encourage people to please like and subscribe to help us grow. But Jennifer, could you tell us, take as much time as you'd like, and your final message to people, and to also tell them how to get hold of you again,
Of
and
course.
whatever you'd like to say, take a few minutes.
So I asked Spirit today to guide me and what would be the message for everyone listening now and listening later. And I was guided to pull this card for us. It's from the Animal Elders Oracle, and it's Elder Heron. And the message for this community is practice patience. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with others. We're all going through a shift. We're all going through a very difficult time. There's been a lot of conflict amongst each other. And this is going to require us to come back to our source, our sense of purpose, to allow things to flow naturally, and to know that we're all human having this experience together. And the way to move forward is through kindness, compassion, and patience. And to know that as the sun in the picture, there is going to be brighter days ahead. We had to stay focused on our vision, on our sense of purpose, and know that things will grow again in times that you feel that there's nothing, like things are dead, things will grow. And this season right now, winter and then spring is the promise that light does return. Things do grow. Because if you look at right now in the Northern Hemisphere, it looks like everything is dead. But you know that there's growth coming. So please, please be practice patience for yourself and others. And the best way to get a hold of me is jenniferilianacoaching.com. That's my website. You can find me on Instagram as Jennifer_Iliana_coaching. And go out. You can see we do group readings. My friend Kyle and I, we do group readings every month. If you want to just come to one of those and get exposure, see if our energy aligns, and feel free to reach out. You can also email me at info at JenniferIlianaCoaching.com, info@JenniferIlianaCoaching.com. You can also email me and just have a conversation. Like I said, I'm here to serve you in any way that you need, and I'll be completely honest with you whether or not I am the right person for you. And if I'm not, I have good friends I can refer you to. So reach out. And thank you so much, Carla and Raimi. I loved being here with you guys today, and thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And we thank Kyle, who was Kyle Cranston was our guest in July, I believe, if I'm remembering
Yes.
correctly. And she referred you to us. And thank you. Thank you so much. And so with that, we'll end today. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you.